I want to say something to you today that may disturb you. I want to say something that will not make you comfortable. I am not here to make you feel good about where you are. I am here, if you will permit me, to wake you up. Because the most dangerous condition a human being can live in is not poverty. It is not sickness. It is not failure. The most dangerous condition a human being can occupy, the most pitiful state that any living soul can exist in, is to have perfectly functioning eyes and be completely, totally, devastatingly blind. Write that down. You can see the ceiling of your bedroom. You can see the four walls that surround you every single morning when you wake up. You can see the cracked paint, the water stain, the same poster you put up 7 years ago. You can see the alarm clock. You can see the pile of clothes on the chair. You can see everything in that room. And yet you are blind. Not blind in your eyes. Blind in something far more critical. Blind in something that no ophthalmologist can diagnose. Blind in something that no surgery can correct. You are blind in your future. And I am telling you today, a person who is blind in their future is more dangerous to themselves than a person who is blind in their eyes. Because a person who cannot see physically knows they need a guide. They know they need direction. They humble themselves and they say, I cannot see. I need help. I need a path. But the person who has no vision, the person who wakes up every single morning with no picture of where they are going, that person walks around confident. That person walks around comfortable. That person scrolls through their phone, laughs at videos, goes to work, comes home, eats, sleeps, and repeats. And they believe they are living. They are not living. They are existing. And there is a catastrophic difference between the two. Existence says, I am here. Living says, I am here for a reason, with a purpose, moving toward a destination. Existence is biological. A tree exists, a rock exists, a corpse existed. But a human being with a full capacity of imagination, with a full power of a mind that can conceive what has never been built, with a heart that can feel the pull of a destiny not yet born. A human being who uses none of that capacity and simply survives from paycheck to paycheck, from weekend to weekend, from distraction to distraction. That person is committing the greatest crime, not against society, against themselves. Today, I am going to talk to you about vision. Not the vision you get tested at an optometrist. I am talking about the inner faculty, the most powerful technology ever placed inside the human frame that separates the architects of civilization from the spectators of it. I am talking about the difference between sight and vision. And by the time this is over, you will never look at your life the same way again. Sight is a function of the eyes. Vision is a function of the heart. Let me give you a definition. Not a dictionary definition, a life definition. A definition that if you internalize it will reorganize everything about how you approach your existence. Sight is the ability to see what is. Vision is the ability to see what could be. Read that again. Let it sit. Sight operates in the present tense. Sight is reactive. Sight looks at the current reality and reports it accurately. Your eyes are extraordinary instruments of sight. They process light, they detect color, they measure distance, they warn you of danger. Your eyes are magnificent. I am not minimizing what your eyes do, but your eyes, as extraordinary as they are imprisoned in the present moment. Your eyes cannot show you next year. Your eyes cannot show you the version of yourself that made the decision, did the work, endured the process, and emerged transformed. Your eyes cannot show you the business before it's built. Your eyes cannot show you the book before it's written. Your eyes cannot show you the relationship before it's cultivated. Your eyes cannot show you the life before it's constructed. Your eyes are honest, and that is precisely why they are dangerous without vision, because they will show you exactly what is in front of you, and they will convince your mind that what is in front of you is all there is. Vision operates from a completely different location. Vision does not live in the eyes. Vision lives in the heart. Vision lives in the mind. Vision lives in that deepest part of your human consciousness where imagination and purpose intersect, where who you are collides with who you were made to be. Think about every great structure you have ever admired. every skyscraper, every bridge, every hospital, every school, every piece of music that has ever moved you to tears, every innovation that has ever changed the way humanity lives, the airplane, the telephone, the microchip, the vaccine, every single one of those things existed in one place before it existed anywhere else. In someone's vision, not in their hands yet, not in their bank account yet, not in their resume yet, not in their current circumstances. It existed as a picture, a vivid, consuming, unshakable inner picture in the mind of someone who refused to be limited by what their eyes could see. The Wright brothers looked at the sky and saw themselves in it before any machine had been built to take them there. Thomas Edison saw a room filled with light before a single working bulb had ever been produced. Every architect walks onto an empty plot of land and sees a completed building. Every great chef smells and tastes the dish before a single ingredient has been touched. That is vision. And here's what I need you to understand. This is not magic. This is not mysticism. This is not reserved for a special class of gifted individuals who were born under a lucky star. This is human design. The capacity for vision is built into every human being on this planet. The Creator, whatever your conception of that source may be, did not build a single human being without installing this faculty. The universe did not produce one person without the equipment for vision. But here is the tragedy. The capacity is universal. The exercise of it is rare. Most people were given a television set and never turned it on. Most people were given a library and never opened a book. Most people have the full architectural capacity to see their future, to design their destiny, to draft the blueprint of their life, and they spend that capacity watching other people live theirs. Now let me go deeper, because I want you to understand why most people never activate their vision. It is not because they are lazy, though laziness is a symptom. It is not because they are unintelligent. Intelligence has very little to do with vision. It is because of something far more insidious. It is because of comfort with survival. If you don't have a vision, you will spend your life building someone else's. I want to talk about the average life. And I want to talk about it honestly, not cruelly, but honestly. Because I think the average life deserves far more interrogation than it receives. I think we have normalized something that should disturb us deeply. The average person wakes up in the morning, not excited, not purposeful, not propelled by a burning sense of direction, but obligated. They wake up because the alarm went off. They get dressed not because they are going somewhere meaningful, but because they must report somewhere required. They sit in traffic. They spend 8, 9, 10 hours of the most irreplaceable currency in the universe, time serving someone else's vision. They come home depleted. They medicate with entertainment. They sleep. They repeat Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, survive the week, Saturday, Sunday, 2 days of temporary escape before the cycle restarts. And we call this life. 40 years of this, and we call it a career. I want to ask you something today, and I want you to sit with the full weight of this question. Whose vision are you building? Because here is the law, and this is not my opinion, this is the observable pattern of every civilization that has ever existed on this earth. Those who have no vision for their own lives will inevitably invest their energy into the vision of those who do. This is not about employment being wrong. Work is not the enemy. Structure is not the enemy. Having a job is not the problem. The problem is purposelessness. The problem is going to a job with no vision beyond that job. The problem is spending the best hours of your most capable years with no picture of where you are trying to go. The entrepreneur who built the company you work for, do you think they just woke up one day and stumbled into that? No. They had a picture. They had a vision so clear, so consuming, so relentlessly vivid that they could not pursue it. They saw the company before it existed. They saw the product before it was manufactured. They saw the team before they had a single employee. And because they had that vision, and because they were willing to endure what the average person refuses to endure, they built the thing. And now the average person with no vision of their own works inside it. You see the mechanism now. Vision is not just personal philosophy. Vision is economic infrastructure. Vision is how the world gets organized. The visionaries sit at the top of every system because they built the system. And the people without vision fit into the slots that the visionaries created for them. I am not saying this to make you feel bad. I am saying this to make you furious, because you were not designed to be a slot filler. You were not designed to be a cog in someone else's machine. The same source that constructed the entire observable universe constructed you. And that source does not make components. It makes originals. It makes purpose. It makes unique assignments wrapped in human skin and placed in specific moments in history for specific reasons. And the question is, are you taking your assignment seriously? The tragedy of survival mode living is that it masquerades as responsibility. It hides behind practicality. It disguises itself as maturity. I can't just go chasing dreams. I have bills to pay. That's not realistic. I need to be sensible. I'll pursue my vision when I have more time, more money, more freedom, and the years pass. And the vision, which was never written down, never committed to, never pursued with intention, begins to fade. The picture becomes blurry. The hunger becomes a distant memory. And one day, one devastating, irreversible day, you look in the mirror and you realize you have traded the life you were built for in exchange for the safety of the life you settled into. That is not a failure of circumstance. That is a failure of vision. Now I want to attack something else that lives inside this trap of survival. And I am going to be direct because you deserve directness. Average association. The people you spend your time with are not neutral forces in your life. They are either accelerants or anchors. They are either pulling you toward your future or holding you inside your present. And I want to be very precise here. I am not telling you to be cruel to people, to be arrogant, to look down on anyone, but I am telling you this. If the people in your circle have no vision, if your closest relationships are built around complaint, comfort, entertainment, and the endless consumption of other people's content, then you are in a dangerous environment. Not because those people are evil, because environments shape expectations. And the expectations of your environment become the ceiling of your ambition. If everyone around you believes that a secure, mediocre job is the summit of achievement, you will eventually stop fighting against that belief. If everyone around you has made peace with not growing, not building, not risking, not reaching, their peace will become your paralysis. The visionary throughout history has always been the person willing to look strange to their environment. The visionary has always been the person who seemed unsocial, obsessive, impractical, because they were building something that the people around them could not yet see. And this brings me to the final and perhaps most critical section of what I want to say to you today. Write the vision. Disappear, build. Let me tell you about the power of writing. This is not motivational decoration. This is not a feel-good tip. This is ancient wisdom that the most successful individuals, the most effective leaders, the most prolific builders in human history have all independently discovered and practiced. The vision must be written, not thought about, not intended, not kept vaguely alive somewhere in the back of your consciousness. Written. There is something that happens between the mind and the hand when you place a vision on paper that cannot be replicated by any other means. The act of writing forces precision. You cannot write a vague vision. Try it. Sit down and write, I want to be successful. That is not a vision. That is a wish. A vision has specificity. A vision has dimensions. A vision has a timeline, a direction, a destination, and a reason. When you write the vision, you are doing several things simultaneously. First, you are making a declaration. You are moving the picture from the fluid, malleable, easily dismissed space of imagination into the concrete, committed, accountable space of the written word. Something on paper can be returned to. Something on paper can be measured against. Something on paper holds you responsible in a way that a thought never will. Second, you are communicating to your own mind what is real. The subconscious mind does not easily distinguish between a vivid written vision and current reality. This is not philosophy. This is documented neuroscience. when you write your vision repeatedly, when you engage with it daily, when you speak it and see it and think from the perspective of its completion, you are literally restructuring the filtering system of your brain to begin identifying opportunities, resources, connections, and pathways that were always present but previously invisible to you. You begin to see differently, not because the world changed, but because your internal picture changed. Third, writing the vision creates an obligation to act. A vision that lives only in your mind can be indefinitely postponed, but a vision that is written, dated, and placed where you see it every day becomes a standing indictment of inaction. It looks at you, it asks you every morning, what did you do yesterday to move toward this now? Once the vision is written, once it is precise and committed and living on paper with your name on it, what comes next? Disappearance. I want to talk about this because it is one of the most countercultural things I will say today, and it is one of the most necessary. The world we live in is built around visibility. Social media has created an entire economy of performance, of showing people what you are doing, where you are going, who you are with, what you are eating, how you are feeling. And I understand the utility of certain kinds of visibility for certain kinds of goals at certain stages of execution. But I want to warn you about something. Premature visibility kills vision. When you share a vision before it has roots, before it has been worked on, before the foundation has been laid, you expose it to the most destructive force in any social environment, opinion. And opinions, especially from people who do not share your vision, who do not understand your assignment, who are themselves living without direction, are corrosive to the early stages of extraordinary pursuit. The person who told you it was impossible, were they doing something extraordinary? The person who laughed at your idea, had they ever built anything that required the kind of courage yours demands? The person who called you unrealistic, had they ever been tested by the reality of genuine risk? Most of the people giving you opinions on your vision have never had one. And yet, because they are familiar to you, because they share your history, because they know your name, because their voices carry the weight of relationship, their words land with a destructive authority they do not deserve. The most productive seasons of any vision's development happen in silence. Think about what happens in the natural world. Think about gestation. Think about the seed underground. Think about the chrysalis before the butterfly. The most radical, most irreversible transformation happens in concealment. The butterfly does not become a butterfly in public. It becomes a butterfly in the dark, inside a casing, in a process that looks from the outside like stillness, but from the inside is total structural revolution. You need seasons like that. Seasons where you are not posting, not explaining, not seeking validation, not defending your choices to people who have not earned the right to question them. Seasons where you wake up early before the world demands your attention and you work on the thing. Seasons where you say no to the party, no to the hangout, no to the mindless 3-hour conversation that produces nothing, no to the gathering of comfortable people, exchanging comfortable ideas in a comfortable echo chamber of managed mediocrity. Because here is what I know about the person with a real vision. They don't have time for that. Not because they are antisocial, not because they think they are better than anyone, not because they are arrogant or elitist or cold, because time is finite, energy is finite, focus is finite, and every unit of time, energy, and focus you give to an environment that does not serve your vision is a unit taken from an environment that does. The most productive people you admire, the ones who built things you respect, who created things that moved you, who accomplished things that seemed impossible, they were not doing what everyone else was doing with their evenings and their weekends and their discretionary hours. They were building, they were studying, they were practicing, they were failing privately so they could succeed publicly. They were in rooms by themselves or with a small circle of equally committed co-builders, doing the invisible, unglamorous, repetitive, demanding work that transforms a vision on paper into a reality in the world. This is what I call Sigma execution. Not execution for applause, not execution for the audience, not execution for the reaction, execution for the result. The Sigma executor understands something that the average person refuses to accept. The process is not for public consumption. You do not need everyone to understand why you are working this hard. You do not need permission from the crowd to pursue a vision the crowd cannot see. You do not need the validation of people who are not going where you are going. You need clarity. You need commitment. You need consistency. And you need the kind of discipline that is self-generated, that does not depend on motivation, on mood, on favorable conditions, on supportive environments, but that shows up because you have written the vision, you have made the decision, and you have tied your identity to the execution. Let me say something else about discipline, because it is misunderstood. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is not the absence of joy. Discipline is not the grim, joyless grinding that mediocrity imagines it to be when it looks at extraordinary people and tries to explain them away. Discipline is devotion. Discipline is what love looks like when it meets a worthy target. When you have a genuine vision, when you have looked deep enough inside yourself to find the thing you were actually built for, working toward it does not feel like deprivation. It feels like alignment. It feels like walking in a direction that your whole being confirms is right. The person who hates their work is not disciplined. They are imprisoned. Discipline without vision is a cage, but discipline with vision is a rocket. And the vision, when it is clear enough, when it is specific enough, when it is written down and returned to and committed to with the full force of your intention, the vision generates its own fuel. You stop needing to be motivated by external sources because the internal picture is so vivid, so real, so present to you every morning that it becomes its own relentless engine. The world does not need more spectators. Let me tell you something about the moment we are in. We are living in the most extraordinary time in human history for the pursuit of vision. The barriers that once separated the dreamer from the platform, the builder from the market, the visionary from the audience, the thinker from the tools, those barriers have collapsed in ways that no previous generation could have imagined. You are sitting right now with access to more information than the greatest libraries of the ancient world combined. You have communication tools that can connect you to collaborators, mentors, markets, and movements across every continent on this earth. You have creative tools that once required entire teams and enormous budgets, now available for free or near free to any individual with the commitment to learn them. The excuses that even previous generations had: I did not have access, I did not have resources, I did not have connection, I did not have opportunity. Those excuses have been largely dismantled by the very technology you are using right now to watch this video. What remains? Vision. The shortage today is not resources. The shortage today is not opportunity. The shortage today is not information. The shortage today is people who know why they are here. People who have taken the time, the frightening, vulnerable, necessary time, to sit with themselves and ask the serious questions: what am I here to do? What problem am I uniquely equipped to solve? What would I build if I knew I could not fail? What picture keeps returning to my mind even when I try to dismiss it as impractical? What is the thing that, when I imagine its completion, makes me feel a sense of rightness that nothing else produces? Those are vision questions. And most people will go their entire lives without sitting with them seriously for a single uninterrupted hour, because those questions are uncomfortable, because they demand an honesty that is threatening. Because to ask, what am I here to do, implies that you might be capable of more than you are currently doing. And if that is true, then your current life becomes an indictment. And that indictment is painful to accept. But the pain of that acceptance is nothing. Nothing compared to the pain of standing at the end of your life, looking back at the unlived version of it. The unwritten book, the unbuilt business, the unspoken word, the unrisked venture, the vision never pursued. That is a pain with no remedy, because time does not reverse. Opportunity does not wait indefinitely. The window that exists for you right now, the specific combination of your age, your energy, your current access, your particular moment in history, that window is open today. And every day you spend without a vision, without direction, without a written plan and a committed pursuit, that window narrows. I am not saying this to create panic. I am saying this to create urgency. The right kind of urgency. The urgency of someone who understands that they are not here by accident, that they arrived in this world with an assignment, with a capacity, with a unique configuration of gifts, history, perspective, and purpose that has never existed before and will never exist again, and that this singular, irreplaceable, non-renewable life deserves to be lived with intention. So here is what I want you to do when this ends. Not tomorrow, not this weekend, today. I want you to find paper, physical paper, not a notes app, not a voice memo, and I want you to write at the top of that paper, my vision. And then I want you to write what you see when you imagine your life at its fullest expression. Write what you would build if the resources were present. Write who you would become if you committed fully. Write where you are going. Write why it matters. Write it in the present tense. Not I want to, but I am. Not someday, but now, in the language of its completion. Write until the picture is clear. Write until you can feel it. Write until reading it back to yourself produces something physical. A rise in your chest, a fire in your gut, a quiet certainty in your bones that says, this is it, this is mine, this is real, and then protect it. Do not show it to everyone. Do not post it for reactions. Do not expose it prematurely to the cold air of other people's skepticism. Guard it the way you guard the most valuable thing you own, because it is the most valuable thing you own. Work with the absolute conviction that the vision is already done and you are simply walking toward what already exists in the realm of potential. Work in the early morning before the world wakes up. Work in the hours other people fill with distraction. Work with the kind of focused, purposeful, patient ferocity that produces results that look like miracles to people who did not watch the work. The world does not need more spectators. It does not need more consumers. It does not need more people watching other people's lives through a screen while their own life sits waiting. The world needs you, the specific, particular, unrepeatable you, stepping fully into the vision that was placed inside you before you had the language to name it. You have sight. Now get a vision. If this reached something in you, something real, something that has been waiting, do not let this moment pass without acting on it. The feeling you have right now is the vision knocking. Open the door, share this with one person who needs to hear it. Not to fill a comment section, because that person's life may depend on it. Now go.